95% of people will never build real wealth, and the reason will make you question everything you've been told about money. Welcome to the truth nobody in your school, your job, or even your family ever taught you. Let me ask you something. You wake up every morning, set your alarm, sit in traffic, deal with a boss you probably don't even like, come home exhausted, and then do it all over again the next day. And the day after that. And the day after that. For decades. Most people call this being responsible. I call it being trapped. Not because working hard is wrong, working hard is absolutely necessary. But because working hard alone, without a strategy, without understanding how wealth actually moves in this world, will keep you on that treadmill until your knees give out and your retirement savings barely cover your grocery bills. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The top 1% of wealth holders in the United States own more wealth than the entire bottom 90% combined. Read that again. This is not a political statement. This is not about fairness or unfairness. This is simply the reality of how money is distributed, and more importantly, it is a clue. A massive, flashing, undeniable clue that the people at the top are doing something fundamentally different. Not just working harder. Not just getting lucky. They are operating with a completely different set of rules. And the most dangerous thing about those rules? Nobody teaches them to the rest of us. Not in school. Not in college. Not in your first job orientation. You were taught how to earn money. You were never taught how to make money work for you. There is a difference, and that difference is worth millions of dollars over a lifetime. So what exactly are the wealthy doing differently? Let's break it down, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The first thing you need to understand is the difference between an asset and a liability. Now before you roll your eyes and say, "I've heard this before," stick with me, because most people think they understand this concept but completely miss the deeper layer of it. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Simple enough, right? But here is where it gets interesting. Most middle-class people spend their entire lives buying liabilities while calling them assets. Their house. Their car. Their latest smartphone. These things cost you money every single month. The wealthy, on the other hand, obsessively acquire assets first, things that generate income, and then use that income to buy the comforts they want. That single shift in order of operations is responsible for more wealth creation than any salary increase ever could be. The second thing the wealthy understand deeply is the concept of multiple income streams. The average millionaire has not one, not two, but 7 different sources of income. 7. Meanwhile, most people are one paycheck away from a financial crisis, completely dependent on a single employer who could let them go tomorrow without a second thought. A job is not financial security. A job is financial dependency. Real security comes from building systems, investments, businesses, royalties, dividends, that continue generating money whether you show up or not. And this leads us to the most powerful concept in personal finance. Something so simple, so mathematically beautiful, that once you truly understand it, you will never look at money the same way again. That concept is compound interest, and it is the closest thing to a superpower that exists in the world of personal finance. Albert Einstein allegedly called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. Whether he actually said it or not is debatable, but the math behind it is absolutely undeniable. Here is what compound interest means in plain language. You earn money on your money. Then you earn money on that money. Then you earn money on that money. Over and over again, in a cycle that starts slow, almost frustratingly slow, and then accelerates into something that looks almost impossible. Let me give you a real number to hold on to. If you invest just $300 every single month starting at age 25, and your investments grow at an average annual return of 10%, which is close to the historical average of the S&P 500, by the time you are 65, you will have approximately $1.9 million. You personally only contributed $144,000 of that. The remaining $1.75 million was generated entirely by compound growth. The market did the heavy lifting. Time did the heavy lifting. You just had to start and stay consistent. But here is the brutal flip side of that same coin. If you wait until age 35 to start that exact same strategy, same $300 a month, same 10% return, you end up with around $678,000 at age 65. Still a life-changing number. But you lost over $1.2 million simply by waiting 10 years. Nobody robbed you. No bad investment wiped you out. You simply waited. And waiting, in the world of compound interest, is the most expensive decision you will ever make. This is why the wealthy start early. This is why they are obsessed with investing young. Not because they had more money, but because they understood that time is the most valuable ingredient in the entire wealth-building formula. Now that you understand compound interest, let's talk about the single biggest enemy standing between you and wealth. It is not the economy. It is not your salary. It is not bad luck. It is inflation, and most people are completely asleep to how quietly and consistently it is destroying their purchasing power every single year. Here is what inflation actually means for your everyday life. If inflation is running at just 6% per year, which is not unusual, and in many countries is considered mild, then the money sitting in your savings account is losing 6% of its real value every 12 months. Your bank might be giving you 1%, maybe 2% interest if you are lucky. But if inflation is at 6%, you are actually losing 4% of your real wealth every single year without making a single bad decision. You are just sitting there, being responsible, watching your savings slowly evaporate in purchasing power while the number in your account stays the same or even grows slightly. This is called a negative real return, and billions of people are experiencing it right now without even realizing it. This is exactly why keeping all your money in a savings account is not a safe strategy. It feels safe. It looks safe. But it is a slow, invisible leak in your financial boat. The truly wealthy understand that cash sitting idle is cash dying slowly. That is why they move their money into assets that outpace inflation, stocks, real estate, businesses, commodities. Not because they are gamblers, but because they understand that doing nothing with your money is itself a financial decision, and it is almost always the wrong one. So the question is no longer whether you should invest. The question is where, how, and how soon. So let's talk about where to actually put your money, because this is where most people either freeze completely or make emotional decisions that cost them years of progress. The first and most important investment vehicle you need to understand is the stock market. Now the moment I say that, half of you just tensed up. Because you have heard the horror stories. Someone's uncle lost everything in 2008. A coworker bought a random stock and watched it crash. And those stories are real, but they are missing a critical detail. Those people were not investing. They were speculating. There is a massive difference between buying individual stocks based on tips and emotions, and systematically investing in broad market index funds over a long period of time. Index funds simply track the overall market, the S&P 500 for example, and historically, over any 20-year period in modern history, the S&P 500 has never delivered a negative return. Never. That is not a guarantee of the future. But it is one of the most powerful historical track records any investment has ever produced. The second vehicle is real estate. And before you say you cannot afford it, understand that real estate does not always mean buying a house. It can mean REITs, real estate investment trusts, which allow you to invest in large real estate portfolios with as little as $10. You get exposure to property markets, rental income, and long-term appreciation without needing a down payment or a mortgage. The third vehicle is simply your own skills and knowledge. Investing in yourself, a course, a certification, a new skill set, can produce returns that no stock market can match. A single new skill can increase your income by thousands of dollars per year, permanently. And that increased income, when redirected into index funds and assets, accelerates your entire wealth-building journey exponentially. Now let's bring everything together, because information without action is just entertainment, and I don't want this video to be just another thing you watched and forgot. Here is your simple, no excuse starting framework. Step 1, spend less than you earn. I know that sounds obvious. But the average person spends 100% or more of their income every single month. Before you can invest a single dollar, you need a gap between what comes in and what goes out. Even if that gap is $50 a month to start. Start there. Step 2, build a small emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of basic living expenses, sitting in a high-yield savings account. Not to grow wealth, but to protect it. Because without an emergency fund, the first unexpected expense sends you straight to credit card debt, which is the single most destructive financial force in a middle-class person's life. Credit card interest rates of 20%, 25%, even 30% will undo years of investing progress in months. Step 3, eliminate high-interest debt aggressively. Any debt above 7% or 8% interest is a guaranteed negative return on your money. Paying off a credit card charging 24% interest is the equivalent of getting a guaranteed 24% return on investment. No stock can reliably beat that. Step 4, automate your investments. Set up an automatic monthly transfer into an index fund. Make it automatic so your brain never gets the chance to talk you out of it. Step 5, stay consistent and stay patient. Wealth is not built in months. It is built in years and decades. The people who win are not the smartest or the luckiest. They are simply the ones who refuse to quit. You now know what 95% of people will never know. The only question left is whether you will do something about it, or scroll to the next video and forget everything you just heard. The choice, as always, is entirely yours. But let's get even more specific, because invest in index funds and be patient is good advice, but it is not complete advice. You also need to understand the psychological side of wealth building, because your own brain is working against you in ways you have never been warned about. There is a concept in behavioral economics called lifestyle inflation, and it is silently responsible for destroying the financial futures of millions of people who are actually earning good money. Here is how it works. You get a raise. Instead of investing that extra income, you upgrade your apartment. You buy a newer car. You start eating at better restaurants. You start wearing better clothes. Your expenses rise to match your income almost automatically, almost unconsciously, and at the end of the month, despite earning significantly more than you did 3 years ago, you are saving and investing the exact same amount. Sometimes even less. The raise came. The wealth never did. The wealthy have a very different response to increased income. When their earnings go up, their lifestyle stays relatively flat, at least temporarily, and the difference gets immediately redirected into assets. They call this paying yourself first, but it goes deeper than just saving before spending. It is about making a conscious, deliberate decision that every income increase is primarily an investment opportunity, not a lifestyle upgrade opportunity. Not forever. Not as a punishment. But as a strategy. Because once your assets are generating enough passive income to comfortably fund your desired lifestyle, then you upgrade, and you do it without guilt, without stress, and without ever having to check your bank account before making a decision. The goal is not to be cheap. The goal is to be free. Now let's talk about something that nobody in the personal finance space wants to say out loud, because it is uncomfortable, it is controversial, and it challenges a belief that most people hold almost as a matter of identity. And that is this: your job title, your degree, and your salary are not the foundation of your financial future. Your financial habits are. I have personally seen people earning $30,000 a year build more wealth over a decade than people earning $150,000 a year. Not because of luck. Not because of inheritance. But purely because of habits. The $30,000 earner invested consistently, avoided lifestyle inflation, stayed out of unnecessary debt, and let compound interest do its work quietly in the background. The $150,000 earner upgraded their car every 3 years, carried a mortgage on a house that was twice what they needed, ate out 5 nights a week, and told themselves they would start investing when things settled down. Things never settled down. They never started. This is not a story about sacrifice. This is a story about awareness. Because the $150,000 earner was not a bad person or even a careless person. They were simply operating on autopilot, making financial decisions based on social pressure, emotional impulses, and a complete lack of long-term vision. They were doing what everyone around them was doing. And everyone around them was broke. Here is the habit stack that actually moves the needle. First, track every single dollar you spend for 30 days. Not to restrict yourself. Just to see the truth. Most people are genuinely shocked by what they find. Second, give every dollar a job before the month begins. This is called zero-based budgeting, and it is one of the most powerful financial tools that exists. Third, review your net worth every single month. Not your income. Your net worth. Assets minus liabilities. That single number will tell you more about your financial health than any paycheck ever could. Let's talk about the one thing that can accelerate your entire wealth-building journey faster than almost any investment strategy, and that is increasing your income. Because here is the hard truth that the budgeting community sometimes forgets. There is a limit to how much you can cut. There is no limit to how much you can earn. You can only reduce your coffee budget so many times. You can only cancel so many subscriptions. At some point, frugality hits a ceiling, and if your income is fundamentally too low relative to your cost of living, no amount of budgeting discipline will build you real wealth. It will help you survive. It will help you stay out of debt. But it will not build the kind of financial freedom we have been talking about throughout this entire video. For that, you need to also focus aggressively on growing what comes in, not just shrinking what goes out. So how do you actually increase your income in a realistic, practical way? The first path is negotiation. Most people have never once negotiated their salary, not at hiring, not at review time, never. Studies consistently show that people who negotiate their starting salary earn hundreds of thousands of dollars more over their career than those who simply accept the first offer. That is not an exaggeration. That is mathematics. A $10,000 higher starting salary, compounded through raises and promotions over a 30-year career, is worth an almost unbelievable amount of money in total lifetime earnings. The second path is a side income stream. Not necessarily a full business, even a skill-based freelance service, done consistently on weekends, can generate an extra $500 to $2,000 per month. And that extra income, invested immediately and automatically, can shave years off your timeline to financial freedom. The key is to treat that side income as completely untouchable for lifestyle spending. Every dollar of it goes directly into your investment account. No exceptions. No negotiations with yourself.